I'll tell you both what. First of all, can you see on the screen the graphic that says sales orders database?
Yes.
All right. So this is, for lack of better words, this is our new database. All right. And what I mean is you can see we no longer have product vendors or vendors down here. We no longer have employees right here. And the employee ID has been removed from this field. So I made the changes already and I sent you the new updated database. We're going to look at that in a bit. But before we do that, just so we can get started, all right? So we can do something so we're not just kind of sitting on our hands. Why don't you do this, please, and start up Visual Studio. And we will create a new project. It will be a Windows Forms app. All right, you've done this many times before. And let's just call it Final Project. One word, big F, big P, and save it, I guess, where you typically save things. All right. And create. Now, just so you know, and maybe I've got a weird fetish with this stuff, but I often come in and one of the first things I do is change the color here. The only reason that I'm telling you that is what I decided to do. We're going to end up making quite a few screens and stuff in here, but anytime I was going to insert, I made the screen green. When I was going to update, I made the screen kind of an orange or amber. And when I was going to delete, I made the screen red. And I purposely did that just kind of to make it sort of symbolic, like stoplights type of thing. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. But one thing I am going to ask, and I'm hoping, because I'm going to use the same kind of a setup that I used last semester. But if you would, click on your form that comes up, and we want to change the size. To me, as we're flipping from form to form, if every form is the same size, it looks much, much more professional. So I made mine 816, 740. So that's the size of my form. All right. So 816 meaning the width, 740 meaning the height. All right. And I'm going to change the name of this form to Form Sales Orders Database Main Screen. In fact, that's way too big. I'll say SODB for Sales Order Database Main Screen. You don't have to call yours this, but again, it's nice to have some kind of a title, etc. in there. So again, I called mine Form SODB, all caps, Main Screen with a capital M and a capital S. All right. And then down in my text, because right now it just says on the screen Form 1, now I am going to spell the whole thing out. So this is going to say sales space orders space database space main space screen. All right, hopefully you can read that at least a little bit. In fact, let me change my share. I should have done that earlier. All right, so hopefully now you can see it on screen. All righty. And again, it's going to have a neutral color to start here. You don't have to do this. You can do this if you want. All right, in fact, you know what? I'm just making it white. There you go. Now, what I want to put on the main screen are 6 buttons. I want them to be nice and big, but spaced so that they look pretty decent. So I'm going to throw the first one out here. Let me bring my toolbar or toolbox back up. All right, so here's my first button. And like I said, I want to sit and create it, put it out here so I can see if, yeah, that's about the size, or no, I want it bigger or smaller, whatever. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, give it a name. So this one will be button customers, and the text on it will be customers. And I'm going to make the text on this nice and big because it's not right now. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go over to my font property. And right now it's set to like 8, but I'm going to bump it up to, I'm going to see what 36 looks like if that's too big. Bold and Arial. That's good. All right, so there's my first button. I'm going to copy it and paste it and put it right over here. And I'm going to call my second button the second one will be button orders. And the text on it, as you'd probably guess, is going to be orders. All right. And I'm just going to keep copying. So my next one down here, the third one is going to be button order details. And the name on it will be order details. All right. If you don't like that, if you think, oh, that should be under orders or whatever, just change it. That's not a big thing. All right. The fourth one will be categories. So I'm going to create another one. This will be button categories. And the text on it will be categories. And the next one will be products. So I'm going to call it button products. And the text on there will be products. And finally, the last one, we'll just make an exit button. So it'll be button exit. And the text on here will be exit. All right, so that's our interface. Nothing to write home about, nothing that's beautiful or anything like that, but it's fine. All right, I don't think we'll need a clear in here, so I think exit's fine. I'm going to click on one of the buttons and then do a Control-A to highlight all of them. And then I'm going to right mouse click and choose lock controls. So I now have my interface locked in place. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to view and I'm going to choose tab order. And I'm going to set it right now at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what? I like that order. If yours isn't that way, I'd like you to make it so 0 is customers, 1 is orders, 2 is order details, 3 is categories, 4 is products, 5 is exit. After you've got that, you can do just another view tab order to make it go away. All right, and let's do 2 more things. First, let's click on the form itself, on the empty spot on the form here. Let's go down to start position. And let's set that to center screen. All right. And let's click on the form again. And we'll just set it, we'll set our accept and our cancel buttons. So our accept button will be, we'll just make it button orders. That's fine. And our cancel button will make button exit. All right. Am I right in assuming I'm not going too fast, that you're all caught up? Is that correct?
Yes.
Keegan, you too. I'm sorry. You're okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. So it doesn't really matter about the order, but since I did make them 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to double click on customers. Not going to put anything in there yet. Then I'm going to double click on orders. And again, nothing in there. Order details, nothing in there. Categories, nothing in there. Products, nothing in there. And exit. All right, let's put in our exit code. We've done this enough times already. All right. And well, this will be a while since I've done it this way. So let's see. Oh boy, it's been a while. We do want a message box in there. Dot show. Do you want to exit the program now? Exit program. We'll have yes, no buttons on there. And we'll have an icon for a question. All right. Okay, now I got to remember how we do this because it's been a while. So let's see. Let's see. It's going to be if dialog result for this. So if the dialog result for this message box equal, what is it? I want to say yes, but I don't remember what it is. I should have looked for this during the break, and I didn't. All right, I'll tell you what, give me a second. I'm going to look for it. I'll grab it because I want to give you the right code. It's silly for me to do this. How is your download coming, Keegan? Is it finished?
It's getting there. Like the download was successful, but it's installing all the files and stuff too.
All right. Is this the second download or still the first one?
No, it's still the first. It's not that.
All right. So when you're done, again, it may ask you with a hyperlink if you want to. Oops. It may ask you with a hyperlink if you want to go and do SQL Server Management Studio. If it does, just click that link, and if it does not, you're going to have to go back out because I don't know if the URL I gave you is going to work or not. But you also, I don't know what you ended up putting in, if it was 2014 or if it was something else. But whatever you put in, you want Management Studio for the same one. In other words, you don't want SQL Server 2014 and SQL Server Management Studio 2019. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So give me a second here. All right, I found the code. Let me jump back in here and paste that in. I'll leave it up there for a second. Again, you've seen this before. If messagebox.show, that's what I was looking for, equals dialog result, yes, application exit. I'll leave that up there again. You've seen this before, but what we're saying is when you click the exit button, it'll come up with this particular dialog or message box. And if you click yes, the program will end. Otherwise, it will not. So key that in and let me know when you've got it done, please.
All right, I've got that.
All right. You got it, Angie?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to do a file save because it's been a little bit. And I'm going to run it. You know as well as I do, the only thing that's operational in here is this button. If I say no, I stay. If I say yes, I go. Okay, well, that's a start. I mean, it's not a whole heck of a lot of stuff, but it's a start. All right. I guess what we can do, this is going to be weird because typically I put the database in before I start putting in the code for the button, but that's okay. All right, because we're doing this a little bit ass backwards, for lack of better words. All right. So what we're going to do is, first of all, is we're going to put a bunch of stuff at the top of our program where we always do. And again, just so you know, and I think you both do, never put any code in here. So underneath the namespace, but before the class, never put any code in there. There's never a reason to. All right. Usually, you won't put any code in here because that's the code that runs when you first start. All right. Now that said, do you ever put code in there? Yes. All right, but we're not going to worry about it right now. But we're going to come right underneath this, and we're going to put in a pretty big comment. All right, so I'm going to put in a multi-line comment. You've seen this. You've done this before. All right, and I'd like you to put this in too, just because of the fact that in lieu of me spending a lot of time explaining this stuff, all right, it's going to be explained to you in the comments. And Keegan, I know you weren't around for the last part of the lecture yesterday, but we went over the document that I'd sent you guys. It's like 40 pages on this, and what you'll find is at least some of the comments that we put in here will be almost a duplicate of what's in that document. But like I said, I think it does a pretty good job of explaining this. All right. So, whoa. All right. We will first set the connection string equal to the path or name of the database. We get this from the following. You're not doing this yet, but this is what we're going to end up doing. All right. We will end up doing a right mouse click on the database name in the Server Explorer window. And we will choose properties. You all know how to do this. All right. You've chosen stuff where you right mouse click and you choose properties so the stuff comes up in the properties window. That's not new. All right. We will then go to the properties window and copy the entire connection string property that is there. All right. It will start with a @ sign, and everything else in this connection string will go between double quotes. All right. Here are the components of the connection string. Now, and again, the other reason that I'm doing all this, I'm not trying to waste my time. I'm not trying to fill time. I'm not trying to waste your time. But in an ideal world, this may very well be something that you end up putting in your electronic portfolio. So if the day ever comes that you're using this to try to get a job and they ask you about it, use, well, the documentation's in there, or if you need to review the documentation, you'll be able to do that. All right. The first thing will look like, and it might not, yours won't be exactly like this, but it'll look something like this. Data source, in fact, I'm going to put that on a new line. All right, so it's going to look something like this. Data source, and it probably will be 2 words, but I don't know. It doesn't matter one way or the other. Equal. Local DB, MS, SQL, local DB. And again, yours may not look exactly like that. It's no big thing. This is the data source, as you can tell by saying data source equals, i.e. where on the machine the database resides. For us, it's our local machine. Now, the reason that this is important is it may be possible if you were to ever go to work as a C# programmer and you were to be working in a database, your data source is going to look different. Your data source will probably actually then hook up to an external server someplace. But the fact that this says local DB means we're using our own machine. And that's all I want you to understand from that. All right. All right, next. Attach on file name equals, and again, yours won't look exactly like this because it's going to be the actual path to your database. So for me, it'll be something like this. I think we're going to call this sales orders DB. I think that's what we're going to end up calling this. And it'll probably be inside of another thing called sales orders DB slash sales orders DB.mdf. right. Now, I'll move over so you can look at all of it. Yours is not going to look like this. Your path is going to be different. So what I'm going to ask that you do is when we get to that point in a little bit, we'll look at the data source that'll be in our properties window. And then I'll want you to go up and grab where it says data source. If yours is different than this, then remove this and replace it with the one in here. Then you'll go to your attach on file name. I'll show you where all this stuff is. And remove this and replace it with what's in there. Does that make sense to both of you?
Yes.
All right, because
Yeah.
we are providing, or at least trying to provide, some documentation in here. And again, I'm not, like I said, I'm doing this because we've never done anything like this before. All right, when I'm not even sure if it's going to work. I will tell you that last year I had 10 people in the class. And when we did this exercise right here, 8 people's worked just fine. 2 did not. All right. Well, then I gave them a long break. And during the break, I had some other stuff I had to go do. And when I came back, one of the other people said, I figured out how to get mine to work. And he had already done that. So I said, I'll tell you what, can you help Chris? Who was the other person who had problems. He helped Chris, and then everybody's worked. But this is going to be something else, because if for some reason this does not work, this isn't the kind of stuff that you can typically debug by having you zip a file and send it to me, because it's database stuff, so it's local to your machine. So if one of yours does not work, I'm probably going to have to ask you to take a bunch of screenshots and send them to me. And if you go, geez, I don't like that, I don't like it any more than you do. All right. Okay, so this is the actual path to the database itself. And don't worry if you didn't copy over everything that I had over there, because yours again will be different. All right, then it's going to say integrated security equal true. All right, it'll say something like that. All right, and what we want to do, basically, this specifies Windows authentication will be used. In other words, we will not require users to enter a username and password. And luckily, that is the end of that big comment that we're putting in there. All right. Now, where does yours stand right now, Keegan?
I'm downloading the server management thing.
Okay. And how does that look? Does it have a lot to go, or can't you tell?
Well, I mean, it's not looking too good. The download speed at my house is very slow.
All right.
I mean, it's saying like an hour to 2 hours. So,
Well, we got to hope that's not the case. But right now, what we will be able to do, and I'll be able to show you this. All right. First of all, my 10-minute warning thing came up. But what I think what we'll do is we'll take another break. We'll come back at 10 o'clock. And I'm sorry for this, both of you. Sorry you've got a slow machine. And Angie, I'm sorry for you. But what we'll do is at 10 o'clock, if yours still says it's an hour or whatever, we won't put in the code, but we'll put in all the comments I put in for the code. And I can explain to you what we're going to do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
yeah.
Because what we're basically going to do for each one of these buttons is pretty much the same thing. We have, I think we said we have 32 customers. All right. we're going to just set this up so that it's going to show us, let's say, our last 25 customers. That way, if when the point comes when we add ourselves as a customer, we'll be able to see ourselves in there. We'll also, when you click this, we'll see the last 25 orders, the last 25 order details, all of the categories because there's only 6, and the last 25 products. Does all that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't like it like that, see, the thing is, if you want to show all 32 customers, you can do that. You can put that into a message box with no problem. But I think I mentioned this yesterday. You can also put all 40 products in. It's not going to be a problem. You're not going to be able to have a message box with 944 orders in it. It would be so long, it would be silly to even try that. You also won't want one with 3,975 or how, if yours doesn't get all those, Keegan, whatever. So with those, we'll just maybe say if we just say the last 25 for all of them, except for categories where we can see everything, I think that's probably about the best way to do it. What you're going to find is I will go over the code with you today for these two, this one and this one. And it's basically the same code. The only difference is we're working on different tables. So I'm going to ask then that when we get done with that you put in these similar code for that table and that table and that table. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. And Keegan, if yours doesn't get done today, that's where we'll stop it. And then we'll pick it up tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. But when we build the database, we're going to build it a little differently than we did we're not just going to copy files in. We're going to build at least a few of these tables, and I wouldn't mind building all 5 of them together as a class so you really get the idea of using SQL Server and what you have to do. When it comes to populating the tables, you won't have to do one line of typing. We'll grab those files that I gave you, copy them into our query window and run the query. Boom, everything will be done. All right, so it is 9:34 right now. Let's come back. Let's reconvene at 10 o'clock, Keegan, and we'll see what it says for you. All right. Otherwise, we'll just come in and we'll start putting in some comments. All right. I'll see you then at right around 10 o'clock, please.